Welcome back into the Friday Night 360 AZ preview show. Haley Stasiak and Jordan Ham. We are now joined by AIA Executive Director David Hines. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate your time. It's hard to believe that football season is here and the school year is back in the swing of things.
Well, thank you guys. Appreciate it. And you bet. We're excited to get the season started.
What is it that you're most looking forward to with this 2018 season?
Well, anytime that we can get back to competing, I think the opportunity to see some very, very talented kids is a great reason to go out and watch some high school football. We have some very, very good kids competing for our schools week in and week out. It's an opportunity to see these kids before they move on to the collegiate level or potentially the professional level.
It's always an interesting year when realignment happens. Was there a particular set of circumstances or anything, any factors that made this particular set of realignments unique to other years?
Actually, this was a really smooth year for realignment. I think part of it is we did a lot of discussion with our member schools, our conferences, to prepare and to be proactive with some of our reclassification. Every year schools, some of them get a little larger, some of them get a little smaller, and so we'll make those adjustments. But to be very honest, we didn't have to make a lot of adjustments this year. So actually that process, and then once we place them, then all the scheduling that takes place, our conference leadership just has done a tremendous job of getting that all in place as we begin the year.
First year of allowing year-round practices. Have you gotten any general feedback about how that's gone? What is your opinion on how that's gone so far?
Well, good point. To tell you the truth, not a lot has changed other than we don't have people having, coaches, that is, having to go outside and become their own outside entity. So I don't know that we have a whole lot more, quote, say, coaching or playing that's going on. We're just making sure that it stays within our rules. I think the one thing that has increased a little bit would be more of the 7-on-7 football stuff that goes on. And so, there's some positives to that. There's also some negatives to that. And so I think it's important that we always keep, in fact, in mind that not only do our athletes, but our coaches need to be given a break. And sometimes I think if somebody else is going to do it, then every coach jumps on and says, I have to do it too. And it comes at an expense to their family and just their whole well-being.
What is your opinion of those 7-on-7 camps? What are those positive and negatives you mentioned?
I think the positive things are you have opportunities for kids to work on routes, to work on some timing, for quarterbacks to throw, kids to get to be able to see from a defensive standpoint things happen in front of you and be able to work on reaction. I think those are all positive. Negative, the pressure that this is a real competitive type situation. As a former football coach, you can evaluate some things, but it's much easier for a quarterback that has no rush and nobody standing in front of them to complete passes than if you have, everybody's going full speed and coming right at you. So I think even the coaches at the next level, they don't mind watching some of that, but that's a minimal piece of what they're looking for because it's not realistic in the true game of football.
When we spoke with you roughly a year ago, Haley asked you about the challenges that the AIA was facing, and you highlighted education within transfers, player safety, both concussions and heat-related injuries, and then educating new coaches after coach and AD turnover. Just how has the AIA been able to address some of those challenges in the past year?
Well, we have some required coaches meetings that we have. We have required athletic director meetings. I think that the membership has done a much better job of communicating with their coaches and their players and their parents when it comes to the sports medicine piece. So the heat, the concussion, to be honest, we don't ever want to have anybody have an issue, but it is a challenge when we have as many kids as we do competing, because they're, our temperature for the heat is hot. Concussions are a major thing when it comes to football and soccer and even some of the other sports. So that's a challenge. I think our coaches have done a good job. I think the biggest challenge that is yet to be overcome is our transfer. We have a few more transfers. Not that we have any more transfers, we have a few more hardships coming forward than we had last year. And I think just trying to understand a hardship versus a choice is the biggest challenge.
Lots of new coaching changes in this last year. We've seen big-time programs add new big-time coaches. What is kind of your outlook on that? And is there a specific program who has a new coach that you're most looking forward to seeing what they can do?
Well, we have a couple coaches that have come from out of state. Hamilton, has a new coach who has been successful in Michigan. So it'll be kind of interesting how things transpired there. I know Rich Wellbrock has moved from, Desert Edge to Basha, is now at Mount Point. So he's back in a well-established program, with a different kind of clientele. John Kitna, a former NFLer, is coaching at Brophy. Scooter Molander did tremendous job for years, and then made a decision to step away with some family health issues, and so it's it'll be interesting to see. It's anytime we start the year, a lot of expectations, a lot of things you look forward to, and then by the time they start playing, things start getting kind of fed out to where some schools are going to go, wow, man, they're really doing well, versus some that you go, man, I thought they might be a little more competitive.
I hate the fact that I have to ask this, but this offseason it was discovered some individuals were using their media status to leverage some, or try to leverage some inappropriate conversations with some high school athletes. Just what do you think the high school community can learn from this to make sure that something like that doesn't happen again in the future?
Well, that's a great point, Jordan, to tell you the truth, because most of the schools really want the media to help come in and promote their kids, write stories, write results, write things up about their programs. We are working and are will put into place a additional media agreements and things, protocol. We've always relied on the institution that these reporters work for to sign off and verify with that, because we have a lot of them. And so really we're just holding some of the entities that hire these people a little more accountable and make sure that they are surely vetting them. So, in society, we have sometimes we have to make a decision on some people that aren't in the best interest of our kids, and I think the safety and the respect of our kids is paramount when we're working with the media.
We appreciate your time and your insight as always. Enjoy those Friday Night Lights come this week.
All right. Thanks, Haley.
AIA Executive Director David Hines there. Most interesting point from me that we talked about was the realignment process being easy, not being too much of a hassle there. That's what I got from
Right,
that.
and that's kind of the sense that I got when the realignments happened. Usually there's a big outcry of certain schools not wanting to move up, not wanting to move down. There was a little bit of that this past cycle, but it didn't. I felt like it wasn't as vocal. I mean, it seems like every year you're going to have Saguaro wanting to move up and try to play the best of the best.
He mentioned the competition too.
Yeah, but that was something that was interesting because it seems like so much of it is about the situation that you're given, and that's something that coaches and athletic directors are trying to control as much as they can. But yeah, it was a little surprising to hear that it was a pretty smooth process. For me, it was the year-round practicing, that it wasn't so much like coaches are going guns a-blazing, let's get out there every single day. But that was kind of I don't want to call it a loophole, but another route that they had to go was to kind of have these more private companies to go ahead and still work with those players. Now that's wide open. So that I thought that was a pretty interesting point, that that adjustment we haven't seen, I think, the really dramatic change that we thought we were going to see.
Yeah,
when
but
we saw
I mean, we may see that more in
and again, it'll probably depend on the school. So many schools,
and the coach.
Yeah, so many schools and so many coaches are trying to embrace the multi-sport athlete. Others want you focused on their sport and their sport only. So it will be unique per each campus as well.
And one last note there, thought it was very interesting, just bringing up that issue that we've had with the media members who abuse their privileges there. As a community, with the high school football community, everyone's working together to make sure that doesn't happen again, and the safety of these athletes.
Right, and I think the key with that is, when this kind of came out, it seemed like a lot of different schools came out and said, like, oh yeah, these particular individuals were banned from our campus. It's causing people to talk and communicate, and I think that's going to be a huge key as well.
On the other side, we're going to have Castile quarterback Gunnar Cruz. Keep it right here on the Friday Night 360 AZ Preview Show.